Hi, my name is Kuba and today I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my volunteer adventure at the White Cat Game Reserve in South Africa. But first, I'll tell you how I got there. Let's start from the beginning. First, I reserved a place on the program, wanting to start as soon as possible the day after I set off my journey, from Poland to South Africa alone. It was over 24 hours by planes. I had 3 flights and for the first time I had to manage everything by myself. Finally, I got to Port Elizabeth, where I had the pickup arranged. The whole travel part was basically get to the place 10,000 kilometers away from your home, and then we'll take care of the rest. In meantime, I did all these fancy photos. After another 2 hours, I got to the volunteer site in the village Sidbury, which is basically only the volunteer site. I was the only volunteer joining this week and there were already 6 of them. The volunteer house was almost new and very well equipped. The building was located in the middle of the reserve, so every now and then I heard alternatively the sounds of monkeys running on the roof, birds singing and lions roaring. The place gave me the vibe of a childhood dream camp. Generally, each day followed a similar routine. Wake up around 8 AM, then breakfast, the first activity, a lunch break and the second activity. Activities were always revealed just before they were about to happen, so you could never be sure what was really going to happen next. After about 5 PM we had free time and there were many possibilities to spend it. We could use the facilities of a nearby hotel such as swimming pool, billiards, table football, table tennis, darts or just chilling by the fireplace in the well-equipped volunteers' house. I traveled there in October, which is the beginning of spring in the southern hemisphere. So from the gloomy and cold Central Europe I moved to flourishing and waking to life South Africa. The atmosphere was awesome. Every single volunteer came here alone from a different corner of the world, so it was a great experience to meet people without any pre-existing bonds. I was provided with insights into the origins of the reserve. It was created in such a way that numerous plots were purchased from different individuals, and in their place the reserve was built, restoring the old natural appearance of the area. Right away at the start of the day 1, I took part in a morning game drive around 6 AM. Then I was shown around the program site, which had a rehab center for wild cats, a mini farm for smaller animals, several buildings for volunteers, a few buildings for employees and a hotel for guests. If you are considering coming here, that's a board with more information. In the afternoon you went on another game drive around the area to search for items that may be dangerous to animals. Game drives can never be too much. Each time you encounter different animals because they show up at different times of the day. Game drives aren't just about riding in a car. While riding, the volunteers learn from each other about the animals they see, so that the knowledge is passed on to the future volunteers who will be teaching others in some time. Every now and then you leave the car to admire the views. On the second day we went climbing the surrounding hills in the reserve.
Right? So you see this stuff is white, guys? It's white, you can see that? Right? It's white. Then I'm gonna take it and I crush it and it's red. It's used for food coloring, alrighty?
At the beginning it involved a few hours of peaceful walking until we reached the hill. That's where the real fun started. The slope was very steep and quite long. For a person who's not very related to sport, I can say that it was hard but worth the effort. We were rewarded with a magnificent view of the entire reserve.
Wait, stop, quick reminder to subscribe. I've just returned from my latest adventure in Peru, so new videos will be coming soon. here are some sneak peeks.
On Thursday, the first activity was providing water to the animals in the rehab center, and then we did tree chopping, which is cutting out foreign trees that naturally don't occur in the landscape of the African savanna and had spread over a large area. This vegetation could in some way threaten the animals that are currently staying in the reserve or simply disturb the natural landscape. The way of cutting down these trees was very interesting because we were doing it with machetes. I don't know if I could do such things anywhere else. It also helps to distress, and it's really a lot of fun in a larger group. In the afternoon we embarked on another game drive. Friday marked the beginning of the weekend for volunteers. Volunteers have a few opportunities to spend this time. For example, you can stay on the program site and simply have a rest. Some people visited another cities in South Africa by flying to them from the airport in Port Elizabeth. However, the majority of volunteers, including myself, opted to move to Port Elizabeth, aka PE, for the weekend where we could sleep for free. In here you can take advantage of the possibilities of a larger African city. Everywhere you can feel a really interesting vibe, but it must be noted that you should always move in a group because moving around alone in South Africa can be dangerous. In the end, this place is like any other where you can shop, chill and have fun like anywhere in the world. The following, on Saturday, we visited a restaurant serving African animal steaks. However, I opted for the vegetarian version. Afterward, we went back to the club. It's worth mentioning that in South Africa everything closes at 11 PM, so the next day hardly anyone was tired. It was also a bit of a sad day because 3 of the volunteers were returning to their homes or continuing their journeys elsewhere. At this point, there were only 4 of us. On Sunday afternoon, we returned to the program site where we had free time for the rest of the day. On Monday, my second and unfortunately last week of volunteering in South Africa started. We spent the day strengthening the fence to protect wildcats in the rehab center. For this purpose, we added a new layer of net. New volunteers always arrived on Monday afternoons, but we never knew anything about them. That's why only the 4 of us started first work, but due to a mysterious disease that hit our volunteers' house, only I managed to finish the work. The second task that day was one of more relaxing ones. It was providing water to the wildcats in the rehab center. In short, it's simply entitled Connecting the Host System and Operating the Taps. Such task is usually accompanied by the possibility of observing animals' behavior and learning new information about their origins from the reserve staff. Over time, volunteers become friends with the employees of the reserve, thanks to whom they are able to arrange some additional off-schedule activities, such as game drive at dawn or animals feeding. On that day, I joined some volunteers to feed the animals in the mini farm. There are such animals as rabbits, monkeys, geese or parrots. In the evening, we had the opportunity to watch a show of traditional African folk dances. From the first day of my stay, I promised myself that I'd see a monkey eating a banana. So over the weekend I bought bananas at the supermarket, and with the help of the girls we set traps in the form of carrots for the monkey living on the roof of the volunteer house. Now I know that if you really want to, you can do anything. I must admit that the food organization and accommodation were truly top-notch. However, the place itself is quite peculiar, with many funny situations occurring such as monkeys stealing food. Every time we left for work, the monkeys knew we wouldn't be around and diligently checked every single window and door, hoping to find something open to sneak inside and steal some food. We always made sure to lock everything before leaving, but even that couldn't protect us from the gang of monkeys living on the roof of our volunteer house. A few times they managed to snatch some food and even broke a few dishes in the process. As you can see, each day is filled with many interesting experiences, leaving no room for boredom. The first activity on Tuesday was a ride during which more experienced OG volunteers, including myself, could test our knowledge by teaching new volunteers information about the animals we encountered. This time we also met a few new animals. For example, that's Warthog, better known as Pumbaa from the movie The Lion King. The reserve staff told us that termites, of which there were many in the reserve, are a rich source of protein and according to many people taste like mint. Of course, I had to verify it myself.
How does it taste?
All volunteers also took part in guiding new volunteers around the White Cat Rehab Center. I must emphasize that it is nothing like a zoo. The animals are kept here for the purpose of later releasing them into the wild. In the afternoon we started cleaning the area that would eventually become a geese point in the mini farm. In the evening we embarked on a thrilling night game drive, an activity organized for all departing volunteers each week to witness animals that lead nocturnal lifestyle. This time the activity took a completely different form. We drove through the reserve in complete darkness, searching for eyes of animals reflecting specific colors in the bushes with the use of a flashlight. It was also a fantastic opportunity to observe the stars, as South Africa is one of the best places where you can see the night sky free from any major light pollution. It was my first time in Africa, and I had always wanted to try a banana straight from the tree, so while buying bananas for the monkeys, I also bought a few for myself. I can confidently say that they tasted different from the ones imported to Europe. By the way, I had to put my phone into the fridge to record that reaction because it was the only place with decent lighting. Moving on to Wednesday, using our connections with the reserve staff, we organized a sunrise game drive, allowing us to witness the stunning sunrise in the heart of the reserve. In the meantime, one of the reserve workers spotted lions. The staff here has truly excellent eyesight. Even with binoculars, I wasn't able to see what they did. The lions had just finished their breakfast. Later, we went to feed the wildcats at the rehab center. Although it might sound interesting and entertaining, the activity was not as enjoyable as it might seem. It involved throwing raw meat over the fence while standing at a trailer full of the meat blood. And there I am, guarding myself from the meat flying around. If I weren't a vegetarian after this, I would definitely be one. The final activity of the day was tree jumping. I must admit that gloves and blister patches were essential for this task, as it could lead to blisters. In the evening we had a power blackout, which is quite common in South Africa, so we were forced to have dinner by candlelight, which I don't mind at all. My last day at the reserve started with the last visit on the mini farm. This time we fed a marmoset monkey from South America that had been rescued from the illegal trade. Unfortunately, such monkeys do not naturally occur in Africa, so she can't be introduced into the reserve. And then we did a new activity, which was fence clearing. The task involved clearing the area around the reserve fences by digging the soil with the shovels. It sounds like an easy task, but with the temperature, air humidity and dryness of the soil, it was quite exhausting. We again encountered new animals. Then we went to a slightly more remote part of the reserve, which is an elephant sanctuary, where we engaged in animal counting to provide important information to the organization responsible for regulating the animal population in the reserve. This part of the reserve was quite different from the one we used to visit frequently. We encountered many giraffes and several new species of animals. For example, we spotted a rare albino springbok. Generally, giraffes, due to their long legs, are not good runners and rarely do that. However, I managed to capture a failed attempt at running by one of them. We also had the opportunity to see small mammal called the hyrax, considered the closest living land relative to an elephant. The next day I woke up, signed on my bed and left the reserve gates, admiring the landscape of the African savanna one last time. I drove to Port Elizabeth, where I spent 2 more days. I found new Pokemon again. Along with the other volunteers, we went to the ocean shore. My journey was coming to an end. The whole journey reminded me of camps I attended when I was younger. Till those days I thought that it isn't possible to bring back those emotions where you are adult, but it definitely is possible by volunteering. Together with one of the volunteers, I flew to Cape Town, which is one of 3 South Africa's capitals. Best tip you will ever get: never sit on these chairs if someone begs you to do it. Don't ask questions. I took more photos from planes. Here I found some time for souvenirs, but forgetting that everything closes at 11 p.m, I only managed to buy a few trinkets. From Cape Town I flew to Amsterdam and then back to Warsaw. There is only one thing I regret doing and one thing I regret not doing. I regret booking return tickets and not doing bungee jumping off the second highest bridge in the world, which was in a nearby city. But at least I left something to do when I come back to this wonderful place, what I hope will happen one day. I tried my best to convey to you as faithfully as possible how I spent these 2 weeks of volunteering. However, it's really just a fraction of the experiences that took place here. To truly experience this authentic African adventure, you must come here and see yourself. If I could do it with only 2 days of preparation, you can too. And so my journey to the country, considered to be the most beautiful on earth, came to an end. Still don't know what to do with my life, but it was worth all these memories.
I've just volunteered in a program in South America. Leave like and subscription so you won't miss it.
Bye for now.